Here.
Commissioner Galladay,
Here.
Commissioner Beach,
Here.
Commissioner Simmons,
Here.
Commissioner Costello, Commissioner Gladney,
Here.
Commissioner Moore,
Present.
Commissioner Johnson. You may proceed.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I think there were some public comments that were received, and I'll ask Myra Bennett to report on those.
Yes, Chair, we received 6 public comments for today's meeting. We received 2 comments from Annette Nowakowski regarding open meetings and improvements to caller ID. We received a comment from Shanna Vila regarding data and performance dashboards and crime reports. We received 2 comments from Jeanette Mott Oxford regarding notice of today's meetings and questions regarding Facebook announcements of the meetings. And we received a comment from Robin Wallen regarding more transparency and public engagement related to service calls. All comments were distributed to the commissioners prior to the meeting today. In addition, the comments in their entirety will be provided online on our website and will be included in today's minutes.
Great, thank you. Those will also be reviewed by staff. Thank you. Next item is the approval of the minutes for the May 25th, 2023 Operations Committee open meeting. Are there changes to the minutes? Seeing none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is the St. Louis Downtown Airport, the 6 surplus property holdings, and John Langa and Mary Lammy, I believe, will have some comments for us.
Good morning, Commissioners. On behalf of the St. Louis Downtown Airport, we are requesting approval and referral to the Board of Commissioners that 6 properties at the airport are declared incidental and not useful in their current condition for aeronautical purposes, and that they would be confirmed available for conveyance by ground lease or other alternative acceptable to Bi-State Development and the Federal Aviation Administration, and authorized Bi-State Development's president and CEO to finalize and execute agreements in support of the conveyance of one or more of the properties through a competitive process. So today's request is based on the airport receiving recent and ongoing interest in all 6 properties by development companies or one or more smaller operators. The airport does not have the funding to make major hangar repairs or renovation, and potential developments or lease agreements offer maintenance and repair savings and new sources of revenue. So if the 6 properties are approved, they would likely be leased on a ground rent basis, with the airport maintaining a fee ownership of the ground and the tenants in control of the new or renovated improvements via a long-term lease or sale. So I planned on giving just a quick overview of the 6 properties. So starting with property 1, and if you refer to Exhibit A, property 1 is 37 acres. It's located on the west side of the airport. Since this location does not have the ability to connect to the runway area, it has not been developed for aeronautical purposes. Approximately 5 acres of this property is part of the airport's runway protection zone, and it will continue to be used for agricultural purposes. This property is part of the airport's farming program, where we have a third-party contract who farms this location as well as locations throughout the airport. We are generating about $8,500 annually for farming purposes. An appraisal of this location from 2018 is indicating that if we leased it, we could generate about $1,000 per acre. So in the past, the airport has received inquiries for development for this location. The most recent one was interest in using it for a solar field. Our most recent inquiries were actually from last fall. At this time, the airport does not have a specific user who's pursuing this property. Property 2, and again, if you refer to Exhibit A for the location, and then if you look at Exhibit 2, you can actually see photos of hangars 1 and 2. Both of these hangars are on the National Registry of Historic Places as a historic structure. They were built 1929, 1930. Over the last few years, the airport has received interest, including current interest from a variety of parties who are interested in the buildings. The brick masonry buildings are in poor condition. They've reached a point that the lease contract with the current tenants is under a month-to-month lease. Cost to renovate the buildings would likely exceed $1 million. The Illinois Historic Preservation Office, or SHPO, who acts on behalf of the National Registry of Historic Places, they've indicated that the buildings could be declassified and demolished, and we would anticipate the demolition cost would exceed $500,000. The airport would require a future tenant to comply with the preservation, renovation, or demolition requirements. The prospective tenant would undertake the repairs or demolition themselves as part of their lease agreement with the airport. From a revenue perspective, this location is generating about a little over $33,000 annually for combined ground and building rent. And as mentioned before, based on the age of these buildings, we feel that they have reached their useful life. And we would anticipate that the month-to-month lease agreements are going to come to an end over the next 1 to 5 years. Ground rent for a future lease would likely generate something over $25,000. For property 3, this property is adjacent and west of hangars 1 and 2. This site has received interest from groups who are evaluating hangars 1 and 2, as well as individuals who are interested in building hangars and smaller hangars. So this site is currently vacant. It is not generating revenue. If leased at our current ground rent rate, we could generate over $14,000 a year. Property 4, given the site's potential roadway and airport apron access, it continues to have interest from different individuals. If this entire property is leased, this location could generate a little less than $8,000 a year. Property 5, this site has existing apron and taxi lane access. This site is vacant. There have not been hangars on this property. If this property is leased, we could generate a little less than $3,000 a year. Property 6 is 13 acres or a little over 13 acres. This site is currently being farmed. We're generating about $3,000 in revenue. This location has received interest from private properties based on the amount of acreage and access to the apron and taxi lane. If the entire property is leased at our current ground rent rate, the airport could generate a little over $119,000 a year. So are there any questions?
So I have a question, Mary. In future plans for any of this property, that would come back to the board for their consideration and approval. That's correct.
So what we're asking is for this. So number one, if it's approved today, we would put an RFP out for a competitive bid process. But Commissioner, what we are also asking is that authorization is giving to our president and CEO to finalize and execute the agreements in support of the conveyance. So actually, if we got to that point, this board briefing paper is requesting that the president and CEO would be given that authority. So it would not go back to the board for the lease agreement.
And Commissioner, we can arrange, I mean, as normal, a lot of these sometimes are smaller lease agreements. What we're really trying to do is be sure that we're in a position to support a lot of the moves associated with Gulfstream on the other side, and creating revenue, in particular with the historic structures, trying to move forward on those properties. But I'm happy to fulfill the obligation to report to the Board of Commissioners, you know, the nature of those transactions. But some of these are small, and I just don't want to take too much of the board's time. And we're now mostly trying to move toward the overall financial management of the airport property so that we are in, none of these, for instance, would be of interest to our major tenant, Gulfstream, and it's more in being sure that that other side of the operation is in order.
Mary, are these considered landside properties then, as opposed to airside?
That is correct.
Okay. Based on my experience, I'm probably the number of parties that would have an interest, especially in the smaller properties, are probably I can count on one hand. But I think it's a wise decision to get rid of, liquidate surplus properties whenever possible, and I would support this.
And I'm not saying I won't support it. I'm just saying that I think as a practice that I would like to know what any potential use of it would be for. So that would be my position on it.
Based on the AI airport protection plans and zones and whatnot, it has to be compatible to certain area use as far as height and distances and whatnot, depending on the exact locations. So for the most part, to be distribution, warehousing, manufacturing, things like that, I would assume, which is anything would be better if it's compatible than just farming. Farming revenue is nice. We get plenty of that out of Mid-America, but if we can put in productive use where there's some jobs created, yes, I concur as well. As far as reporting, I agree.
Thank you. Thanks, Mary.
Mary, just to clarify, these are all leases. The property will may be maintained and be owned by State. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, at this point, that's what we believe. Most of them are going to be ground leases. In one scenario, hangars 1 and 2, there's already a lease agreement in place. We included it with the list because we may actually sell the buildings depending on what the interest is. Now, let me clarify. We've got so we did indicate that they would be available for conveyance by ground lease or other alternative acceptable to bi-state development and the Federal Aviation Administration. So that does leave the door open that we could sell the property.
And that's my my thoughts. So like I said, I just think that Toby, if you could, when we get ready to move forward with it, just a simple update to the board, and that way everybody's in the loop on it.
Absolutely, no problem. I think it keeps us focused on what our policy objectives are, and I'm happy to do that in a reporting requirement, and would be happy to make that obligation right now.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board, comments? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Myra, is this a voice vote?
Yes.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the contract time extension for the downtown tunnel repairs and standpipe replacement design and construction phase services. I don't know if this is Tom or Chris Paler.
I'll take this one. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. This paper seeks approval for a no-cost time extension with Majeski and Masters for construction phase services for repairs to the downtown tunnel. Majeski and Masters was hired in April of 2019 to perform design services for repairs of the tunnel as well as construction phase services. They've completed their design services and we went out to bid for construction services last year in August of 2022. Bids were received and a contract was entered into. Unfortunately, this work requires shutting down one of the tracks due to space constraints in the tunnel. And when we do that, we operate the trains, both trains on the other track. So it's a stress on the operations. We haven't been able to find track time to allow one of the tracks to be shut down to start this work in the tunnel, primarily because of the flooding issues last year. So we've been working with operations and we believe we found a window in the next month or two where we can start the contractor with this work. Unfortunately, the construction phase services to be provided by Majeski and Masters. Their current contract is completed at the end of this year, December 2023. So the construction work will go into next year. So what we'd like to do is extend the Majeski and Masters contract to the end of next year, December 31st, 2024, to allow them to perform these construction phase services during the phase of construction once we get started here in the next couple of months. So again, this is no cost increase. It's just a time extension of 1 year. You have any questions?
I just have one. How long will the single tracking have to happen when the actual reconstruction of the tunnel begins?
We're looking at just doing weekend single tracking now. We're still working with operations as to how we're able to do this. Again, it's very tough, difficult because we have a lot of projects going on. So that's our initial plan. It'll go into the middle, maybe third quarter of next year, depending on how things go. Obviously, working on the tunnel is a challenge. Obviously, it's a very old tunnel. We'll see what happens once we get down there. But we mapped it out pretty well, and I think the design has identified all of the areas, or certainly, hopefully, most of the areas that are going to require repairs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Chris? Seeing none, I need a motion to approve.
Four moves. Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is the contract award for WSP USA, the major on-call general engineering consulting, civil and structural engineering and surveying services. And I think, Chris, this is you also.
Sorry, this is Tom.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Good morning, commissioners. As Commissioner Whitmiller stated, this is a proposal to allow the president and CEO to enter into a contract with WSP USA to provide on-call civil and structural engineering and surveying services. Bi-State has had an increasing need in recent years for engineering support for our in-house projects, ranging from planning studies to major construction projects and infrastructure upgrades. In April of this year, Bi-State issued a request for proposals for these on-call engineering services, and 4 proposals were received. An evaluation team scored the 4 proposals based on the Brooks method for procuring engineering and architectural services. This federally required methodology excludes pricing as a criterion for selection and instead focuses on the technical competence, experience, and expertise of the proposing firms. As a result of the consensus scoring, WSP was determined to be the highest ranking firm, earning 439 out of 500 possible points. Subsequent to the technical scoring, WSP's cost proposal was reviewed by Bi-State's engineering department, and it was found to be fair and reasonable. Projects under this contract will be accomplished by way of task orders, ranging from $200,000 to $1.5 million for any individual task. So management is recommending that the operations committee recommend to the Board of Commissioners that the president and CEO be authorized to enter into a contract with WSP USA Inc. to provide on-call consulting services for civil and structural engineering and surveying services for 3 base years and 2 one-year option years, and the total not to exceed amount of $5 million. And Chris Paler and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Seeing none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, thank you. Next item is the contract award for, again, on-call general engineering consulting services for multiple disciplines, architectural services, mechanical, civil and structural engineering and surveying services, environmental and geotechnology services, and material testing. I don't know if this is Tom again, or if it's Chris.
It is. It is, Commissioner. Thank you. The increasing workload for Bi-State's engineering department has created the need for additional engineering support for our in-house projects. These on-call general engineering consultant contracts will allow us to request services such as independent cost estimating, supportive design and construction projects, performing feasibility studies, and developing plans for capital and maintenance projects. In March, Bi-State issued a solicitation for these on-call services, and 3 proposals were received. In the same manner as the previously presented contract, these technical proposals were scored using the Brooks method, first focusing on scoring technical ability. The consensus scoring for the 3 proposals was very close, with the lowest achieving 367 and the highest firm achieving 387 out of a possible 500 points. Based on these scores, the evaluation committee determined that all 3 responding firms met the requirements and qualifications of the RFP. Services from these firms will be on a task order basis with no single task exceeding $200,000. Again, management is recommending that the operations committee approve and forward to the Board of Commissioners this request to authorize the president and CEO to enter into on-call engineering consulting service contracts with Majeski and Masters, Juno Associates, and TWM Inc. for a 5-year period, and then not to exceed total cost of $4 million for each contract. And again, Chris and I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? Tom, I have no idea if you know the answer to this, but why does the federal government remove cost considerations?
I would say in a general sense for architectural and engineering services, that these are life safety items. So the integrity, for example, of an engineered product or something, the design of a building, it's more important to focus on the safety of it than it is on the price. So they don't want to select with federal money anything that would be the lowest bid that was of lesser quality that later led to some structural deficiency that would cause problems or incur damage or threat to human life and safety.
That doesn't make me feel good about the rest of the contracts, but okay, I understand. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a-
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thanks. Next item is a contract award for the North Side, South Side Jefferson alignment of the program management consultant, phase 2. And I think this is Tom and Darren Curry.
No, I apologize, Commissioner Wynn-Miller, that I'm going to jump in very briefly.
Sure.
So this is actually a very exciting moment because this is for the program management consultant, HNTB, along with a couple of very highly qualified local firms, including KAI, Kennedy Architectural, and Kwame Building Group in a joint venture. So we are talking about a combination of federal talent in HNTB and local talent working on essentially the project management consultant basis for Northside, Southside, Jefferson alignment. I want to remind the commissioners that this is a city project and is being paid completely through city funds, which we have secured and put aside, but a very exciting moment in the movement of this project. We've already started very good project meetings, including project meetings with our partners at FTA on a monthly basis, and that's a combination of city staff, our staff, and obviously the PMC staff. This is essentially the moment where we're having the handoff from AECom, which did the alternatives analysis portion, and then moving into more project management consultant. So a very exciting point. This is a good bid price. It is a lot of money, but a big moment for moving this project forward, and the PMC will be instrumental in creating a package that will be highly competitive in the federal environment to compete for New Start funding. So having this talented team on board is very important, and very excited about this movement. I do have Chris here, who is on the line, who can talk about any more technical aspects of this complex project, but I will pause there and be sure that none of the commissioners have some specific questions about this project.
I just want to say, I'm glad it's moving forward. It isn't a tremendous amount of money, but it's also critically important. So I'm glad we're past this phase and into actual work on the north side, south side consulting piece.
Toby, I know the answer, but could you just verify again how the money flow works regarding City of St. Louis? We have the money like an escrow, we have the funding, and
We do.
Want to
So-
avoid any, 6 months down the road, all of a sudden somebody, some elected official gets a whim that it's going to be changed, and a lot of work has been done for naught. So the money is there.
So this money is actually in-house. So what, as you may recall, we have been successful in managing some of our COVID money. So we have not used all of that COVID money. So the city has elected to use a portion of their fairly allocated COVID funds, essentially, which have now been defederalized and are eligible to use for instance, transit expenditures. And obviously, this is a transit expenditure. So Tammy Fulbright, our CFO, does have this money secured and put aside for this specific project expense. And so we have the money in hand, and we also have full agreement from our partners in the city of St. Louis. They have staffed several members on the project team, and we're all working together hand in hand on this project.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, thank you. Next item up is the contract award for the fleet tire requirement. Tom Curran has some comments for us.
Thank you, Chair Windmiller. Management is requesting that the Operations Committee recommend authorizing the President and CEO to award a contract to Bridgestone America's Tire Operations LLC to provide tire leasing and wheel refurbishing services for Bi-State's bus and van fleet. In February of this year, Bi-State issued a solicitation to obtain a qualified firm to provide tires for each of its buses and vans. 4 firms were invited to submit a bid for this project. However, only one proposal was submitted by Bridgestone America's Tire Operations. The other 3 firms that chose not to submit a proposal are Goodyear Tire and Rubber, Michelin North America, and Frazel Tire. A survey was conducted to determine why the other 3 firms chose not to participate, but only Goodyear Tire responded. The reasons that Goodyear did not propose included interpretation disagreements regarding retreading, fixed pricing, the required startup period, and payment terms. Pricing for obtaining tires under a lease contract and a purchase contract with Bridgestone were requested, and the cost of purchasing tires as opposed to leasing them was nearly $10 million higher. So management is requesting that the Operations Committee recommend approval of a 5-year contract with Bridgestone America's Tire Operations LLC for tire leasing and wheel refurbishing of Bi-State's buses and vans in the not to exceed amount of $4,619,911.20. And funding for this will be provided through our operating budget.
Any questions for Tom? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. Next item is the contract award for the Illinois bus cleaning.
Thank you. This is a contract award to INEX Service Company for bus cleaning services at the Illinois Garage. In April 2023, Bi-State issued a solicitation seeking proposals from qualified firms for equipment, materials, labor, and staffing to provide bus cleaning services at Bi-State's Illinois Bus Garage. 4 proposals were received in response to the solicitation, and all four were determined to be responsive to the RFP. An evaluation committee consisting of individuals from Metro's maintenance department scored the proposals in accordance with the technical criteria listed in the RFP, and a consensus meeting was held to discuss the scoring. A decision was made to waive the technical demonstration evaluation because the top 3 ranking firms already hold contracts with Bi-State and management is familiar with their work. Based on the technical and cost scores combined, INEX Service Company was the highest ranking firm. Therefore, management is requesting that the operations committee support this request for the president and CEO to enter into a 5-year contract with INEX Service Company for the provision of bus cleaning services at Metro's Illinois Bus Garage in the not to exceed amount of $2,022,106.10. And once again, funding for this bus cleaning will be provided through the operating budget. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Seeing no questions, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Next item is a contract modification for the track system upgrades. Tom, I believe this is you also.
Yes, thank you. This is again a modification of Metrolink's track system upgrades contract with RailWorks Track Services. Bi-State has an existing contract with RailWorks Track Services that began in October of 2021. RailWorks completed the Plymouth Avenue grade crossing renewal and reconstructed track work adjacent to the Grand Metrolink station in spring of this year. Metro has identified additional track assets with poor condition ratings and submitted capital funding requests for 3 additional grade crossing services in East St. Louis at Main Street, 4th Street, and Broadway Avenue. These are the only crossings on the original Metrolink line that have never been resurfaced. Metro would like to add additional scope elements, including the replacement of these 3 grade crossings in East St. Louis to the RailWorks Track Services contract. Information detailing the time extension, material cost increase, and additional grade crossing replacements totaling $6.3 million is included in your board materials. Management is recommending that the Operations Committee accept and forward to the Board of Commissioners for approval a contract modification to add these additional elements to the existing RailWorks Track Services contract with the time of performance extension to December 31st, 2024, with a modified contract amount not to exceed $6,943,030.57, which is inclusive of a 10% contingency, and funding will be provided by FTA grants, Proposition M, and the St. Clair County Transit District. Be happy to answer any questions. I know this was a particularly detailed briefing paper, so I'm hoping that I conveyed this adequately for you.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I have a question, Tom. Has this information been sent to St. Clair County Transit?
Chuck, can you verify whether that has already occurred?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not aware of that. No.
Commissioner, I'll try to find out that answer for sure prior to the end of this meeting and report back.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this contract? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you.
I want to hold my vote until I find out if St. Clair County has been notified on this, just so noted.
Well, there's a motion and a second. Are we tabling
Then
this?
I would vote no until I get that answer.
Well, So Tom, can you have that information to us in the next few minutes?
I'm checking with Mr. Sharkey at St. Clair right now.
Okay, then we will table this motion and move to the next agenda item and come back to it. Is that
Thank you.
satisfactory?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Great. The next item is the contract modification for the light rail vehicle brake caliper overhaul. And I think this is Tom Curran again.
Yes, this is a request to authorize a contract modification with Kenor Brake Company to provide light rail vehicle brake caliper overhaul services. Each light rail vehicle in Metro's train contains 4 power truck brake calipers and 2 center truck brake calipers. As part of Metro's reliability-centered maintenance program, Metro plans to overhaul the brake calipers after every 800,000 miles of use. In November of last year, the Board of Commissioners approved a sole source award to Kenor Brake Company for 6 of the 24 LRV sets of brake calipers at a value of $200,000. We are now requesting services for the remaining 18 LRV sets valued at $600,000. There are already 6 light rail vehicles contracted to be overhauled next year, and another 18 LRVs are due for service at the beginning of the end of 2024, winter of next year. So Kenor Brake Company has advised Metro that there is a 1-year lead time for these services. Kenor Brake Company is the original equipment manufacturer of the Metrolink brakes, and a continuation of this sole source contract is being requested for 3 reasons. First, use of OEM, original equipment manufacturer, parts and laborers maintains the LRV safety certifications for the brakes. Second, rail transit friction brake suppliers are very limited in the US market. And thirdly, other third-party transit friction brake suppliers may not desire to assume the design and performance responsibility of the original equipment manufacturer. And therefore, management is recommending that the Operations Committee accept and forward to the Board of Commissioners for final approval this request to allow the President and CEO to execute a change order with Kenor Brake Company for the continued provision of light rail vehicle brake caliper overhaul services in the not to exceed amount of $600,000 over 4 years, which will bring the overall contract total with Kenor Brake to $800,000. And I believe that I would be happy to try to answer any questions you may have. If it's something of a technical nature, I might have to defer to Mr. Stewart. Essentially, it's a continuation of our existing process of fixing the Metrolink brakes.
Any questions? I have one, and I think it's probably for Talby. Talby, I know that we're in the process of adding new light rail vehicles. Will the same sort of situation occur that the brake systems are developed by one company only? Or will we have more leeway in the future? I'm just a little bit worried. What if something happened and the company went out of business? I mean, who's going to service the brakes?
So actually, it is accurate to say that one downside of having 30-year-old vehicles, which we certainly do have, is that some of them are now rolling off of, and they're not as common across the country. Therefore, the companies that service the vehicles are becoming fewer and far between. Another reason for us moving to a newer, the latest generation of the Siemens vehicles, which we are negotiating on now. It is, but we won't have those vehicles in place in time to complete this servicing. So one of the benefits of eventually, yes, we're going to try to get everything we can out of these vehicles, but eventually moving to a more common, essentially light rail frame, which this new S200 frame would provide, does provide us with some benefits, and essentially with having more vendors that provide supplies. One other example where we have a very, very, very thin supply chain is a lot of the electronic panels on our older vehicles are no longer serviced by Siemens. And so we're having a lot of difficulty keeping them on the road because of that. Therefore, moving to this new generation from an operations standpoint, we have now kind of passed that line. And the evidence of that is when we are starting to see more sole source activity. So it's a actually very accurate comment and a very fair concern.
And I appreciate the explanation.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Any opposed? We're down to unscheduled business, so I will ask, Tom, have you gotten an answer about the St. Clair County question?
In fairness to Mr. Sharkey, he just received this message. I will see if an answer pops up. I did indicate that we were in a live meeting that Commissioner Simmons would appreciate an immediate response. So we'll see if something pops up here in a second.
Okay, well, we can come back to that. Is there any unscheduled business, Talby?
I have none, but I think it probably does make sense that we hold on that contract for now. I know that it was some time ago, I just found out Mr. Ham is here with us, and he mentioned that there was discussion on one of those intersections, specifically with Mr. Sharkey, but the other was rolled into this contract. So it probably makes sense for us to just be sure to take some time and be sure that St. Clair is aware of both intersections are in this contract. So if you would, Chair, why don't we just go ahead and still hold on that contract, and maybe we can deal with it specifically at the full Board of Commissioners meeting coming up, the next meeting in Myra, September, correct? September 22nd, which is where the full board would authorize, and we'll just take it out of the consent agenda and deal with it on an individual basis, if that's acceptable.
It is to me. If it is for the rest of the board, I need to know whether or not there's anything we need to do to pull the existing motion officially.
Lisa?
We had a motion and a
Commissioner,
second.
I think we're okay because the motion was to table. And so until we get more information, I believe table until we get more information from St. Clair County. So
You need a motion to table?
I think we already have. No,
I think the motion was
looking
to
at
pass
Myra.
it.
Yeah,
Right.
original
We had a
motion was
motion
to
to
pass.
approve.
I'll make a motion to table.
Okay, that'd be great.
All right, motion to table.
Second.
All right, now this is what we're voting on to pull this until the full board meeting, when it will be its own agenda item and not part of the consent agenda. So we'll have a discussion about it at the full board. Any discussion about that?
I'd just like to say in the future, Mayor Windmiller, that we always ensure that a potential funding entity is aware that they are a potential funding entity.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the elevation to mayor. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any
Yeah,
opposed?
I have high hopes for you.
I don't know, that would require people to vote me in. Any
You got my
opposed?
vote.
Thanks so much. That concludes the business operations, but we do have an operations report from Chuck Stewart.
Good morning, Commissioners. You have in your packets the workforce update and the operations update as of June 30. So this is kind of going to be a State of the Union address, where we are or where we were at the end of last fiscal year. From an operating standpoint, system boardings in particular, we had over 19.6 million boardings last year. That was up 6% from the previous year. Metro Bus at 12.5 million was up 7%. Metrolink at 6.8 was up 5%, and Colorado at 296,000 was down 16%. As you know, back in April, we made changes to Colorado in terms of our footprint, our operating area within 3/4 miles of fixed route service, which basically improved our performance in terms of denied trips. We went from 43% denials somewhere at the beginning of the year to more like 13, 14 at this point in time. So we made that change in Colorado in order to actually improve performance for those that were required to be served in our designated area. Over the year, we've had 4 service changes. In November, we had a 5% reduction in service. Again, in June, we had a 3.5% reduction in service. Those other 2 service changes, quarterly service changes, were focused primarily on changing hours and frequencies, nights and weekends and that type of thing. So I guess the picture is, or the message that I would like to send is that I think we're at a point now where we are prepared to reset and move forward. I think our service will continue, our demand for our service will continue to improve. The service is different. We've got a different customer. Customers are going different places. So we need to regroup in order to meet those requirements going forward. And of course, our most difficult challenge right now is related to personnel, having the adequate number of people to provide the service that is being required by the region. For example, our current service level requires 547 operators. We are at 535, so we are experiencing some missed trips. Our current service level with Metrolink requires 92 operators. We are at 82. Our current service level for Colorado requires 201, and we are at 86. So, but I think we are putting things in place that we are crossing the threshold now of catching up and moving forward to restoring the reliability of our system and to start thinking about the metro of the future, the service that will be required as we move forward into the future. We're doing a number of things, as you're aware of, in terms of attraction. We're having these hiring events. They're being very successful, but hiring people is one thing, keeping them is another. We're hiring, we're attracting through that $5,000 hiring bonus, which is implemented now for the next couple of months. I think that is attracting a new, not necessarily a new applicant. People are attracted by that, but it doesn't matter unless we can keep them after we get them in here. We've enhanced all of our training. We've got other programs like a rehire program. We're reaching out to people that left us 2 or 3 years ago, maybe made some kind of mistake in that period of time, had bad attendance or something. We're giving them another chance. We're looking at hiring younger people, 18-year-olds with CDLs. There's some issues about them working interstate, but that will probably be paired up with a apprenticeship program as we move forward. So we've got a lot of things in progress to hire people, bring them in, retain them. But I think the most important thing that has happened recently is the contract with Local 788. I think this will add stability to our workforce. We already saw in July, and this is even before the contract was ratified, but we were talking about it in the facilities, we saw a reduction in people in our attrition, and people leaving the company. I think they are seeing an opportunity in this new contract. Of course, we're trying to be a little stickier with our 401k plan and those contributions, company contributions that require vesting over the next 5 years if you're a new employee. We've also added the differentials, various things to encourage people to work nights, weekends, work key routes, priority routes. All of those things, I think, will help us attract on one hand, keep who we've got on the other hand. Of course, wage rates have increased. So I think we're in a position now to move forward. I think we've seen the worst of it, the recovery from the pandemic period. I think with your help, we've put into place things that are going to help us not only retain the employees that we have, but to attract additional employees going forward. And we need to prepare for this metro of the future. We need to continue to improve our services and safety. We got great things going on in terms of enhancing security. We got our secure platform plan, which is going to, which our region has requested. We're going to update our LRV fleet. We got the Jefferson expansion. We're focusing now on new services for the future in terms of on-demand service, microtransit, that type of thing. So I guess the state of the union is, you know, this is where we are now. We've had some significant challenges over the last couple of years, but I think we're at the corner. We're about to turn the corner, and through the investment by this board, I think we have the resources that we need in order to make that turn and move forward in terms of Metro's future. So with that, I'd like to entertain any questions you may have.
I got just one, and I guess we could go back in our meetings and find out the exact percent, but if you know offhand, Chuck, what is the percent of ridership for MetroLink did we lose during COVID? From like the beginning of COVID to the end?
Sure, I got that right here. So MetroLink before fiscal year 19 was like that 13 million riders on MetroLink, which was down 3% from 18. In 20, we had 10 million. So our ridership went down 20% between 19 and 20. It went down another 48% in 21. It came back 18% in fiscal year 22, and then another 5% this past year.
So the past year, how many riders did we see?
In MetroLink, 6,123,000.
6 million. So we were at 13 million basically before COVID, and we're at 6 million now.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Chuck, can you report, or if you got it yet, on how the, didn't we have a job fair last weekend?
Yeah, we had a job fair last weekend. I think there were approximately 70, 75 people that attended. We made offers to 50 people on site. It's great to have a job fair where we can go right into testing. So that situation worked well for us. So we made 50 offers. I think about 25 of them were bus, 20 were car ride, and then a few mechanics. So it was we're having successful job fairs, but we need more. We need more. Our stats are not good in terms of people attending versus people ending up in a seat. So we have to improve all of the elements between there to make sure that not only we attract and hire, but we retain. So we're still working on that.
Well, I'd like to just say the job fair I attended last month, the staff did a tremendous job. I mean, I hung around for a couple of hours, and the way they were greeting the applicants and helping them and the way it was set up. I mean, it was very professional. And if I was an individual who was coming there seeking employment, they really made you feel like this is where you want it to be at. So kudos to the staff that puts them together.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, and I agree totally. I usually go and make an appearance, and I'm there in case the press shows up, but it's well run. And these are our team members volunteering to do this on a Saturday morning and afternoon, and I really appreciate the effort that they put in.
Is there one area in particular that we need the most help in, you know, if it's Metro Bus or if it's, I mean, are you advertising for all employees for by state or just certain areas?
No, it's across the board. All of our disciplines in terms of Metro Transit, bus, caller ride, MetroLink, all of the various maintenance and workers, electricians, everything. We're looking for everything at these job fairs.
And is there one area in particular, though, that we have the biggest shortfall?
Yeah, absolutely, bus. Absolutely. Yeah.
Would you say that when you find these applicants and stuff, what is their biggest hesitation if you could find one? Is it you know, the wages? Is it safety? Is it hours? What is the biggest, you know, hesitation for the person?
I don't think I think the hesitation, well, I don't think there's a hesitation at a job fair per se. I think one of our key things, the first thing you need a drug test and a background check. So we lose a considerable amount of employees during that process. And then there's the training process, and we are tightening that up, giving more support to new employees going through that process so they understand what is going to be expected of them when they get out there on the road. So we teamed them up with mentors, that kind of thing, because I think one of the other things that was disheartening was, you know, what does this job really look like when I get out there? There are safety issues, there are safety concerns, and just a general dealing with the public and that type of thing. So we're trying to support our new hires better and more. One of the things that we did in the new contract, we offered differentials to encourage our senior employees, our tenured employees to work different shifts, take on different kinds of responsibility, that type of thing. Because one of the realities of the seniority system is that if I'm a new guy, okay, I might have to work 10, 15 years to get off of working nights and weekends. So that's a deterrent.
Right.
So what we tried to build into the contract was some incentives for our existing workforce. Although you got tenure, you can pick any route that you want to. I'm going to give you an extra 75 cents if you take that grand route, or you take that weekend route, or that nighttime route. So I can give these younger, newer people an opportunity to have a better experience in the initial years of their employment with us.
I think that was very smart. I think all companies should do that, you know, but very smart on your end. So thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cox, the one job fair I attended, one of the questions that seemed to come up was the being able to obtain a CDL. And like I said, the staff was there explaining, you know, how they help, and I think that eased a lot of the tensions on some of them over that concern.
Yeah, thanks.
Other questions or comments? The only thing first of all, thank you so much, Chuck, and to your team for all that you're doing. It's really, it's so encouraging, and I'm so grateful to you and to them. I'm a little concerned about on page 51 of our board book. I'm glad to see that things are improving and we are bringing some riders back, but you know, the fourth quarter ridership in Missouri is down, both Metrolink, I think, and actually system-wide, it's down. And I guess for the fourth quarter from last year, and the Metrolink ridership is down almost 5%. Do you know why we continue?
I think that's just a seasonal variation. Maybe.
So fourth quarter, though, it seems to me would be good because it included a considerable amount of sports
It did.
teams. I'm not going to say the Cardinals play had anything to do with it, but there seems to be a deterioration of ridership in Missouri on Metrolink, and I hope that you'll. My suggestion would be, I don't know whether or not you've done any ridership, and this is more both for you and for Talby, any ridership sort of surveys. I haven't seen one of those in a while, but I would be interested to know what your existing riders think is a good experience and why they've come back if they have. So if you can give us some idea about whether or not you actually conduct ridership surveys, and maybe they need to be done. Maybe we're due for one.
So we do conduct ridership surveys, and why don't we put that on the agenda for me to bring that information at the next meeting? I'm also looking at the July operations report, and for the month of July, Missouri ridership on bus is up 0.3%, and on Metrolink 14.2%. So I will take a look at the June report and look at those particular things that you have highlighted and get back with additional information.
Thanks very much, and thanks for all you're doing.
Thank you.
This is an informational item. Is there any other questions or comments for the team? Great, hearing none, we'll move on. President CEO report, Talby.
Very good, very helpful discussion today. Thank you. One comment I want to make on this overall employment issue. Obviously, this is the moment of scarcity for us. It literally is that labor, and I think what we need to be sure to do as a staff, and I think we are focused not just on one thing, but focused on all things. Okay, not just retention of new people, but also the basis of this contract, our existing employees, being sure to strengthen that relationship up with our partners at 788. Essentially, we need to use every single tool in our belt because unfortunately, although it's encouraging to see these numbers, and of course, August the 12th, 77 applicants, that's great. Changing the location to Barnes Care so that we do immediate testing, good move as well. The Illinois facility hiring event was very good. We'll do the next one September the 9th at Barnes Care in Westport, 11501 Page Service Drive. Please show up if you want to drive a bus. But we need to hit every single venue that we can. We have to be vigilant in all regards because our overall numbers still, I think Chuck would concur with this. We are just treading water, folks. I wish I could tell you we were doing better. I think we are having stronger efforts, but our base numbers still are not on that recovery trajectory where I would take a full breath. So we need to stay very, very vigilant and really appreciate the board's willingness to not only hear the information, but provide the resources that we need. Also, SPP progress is very exciting, as on September the 5th, we will receive our first bids on our first pilot, the 4 stations in Illinois. Very exciting, folks. The gates have been ordered. We are moving on this project. I also did a report to our investor group. You may recall $10.7 million of private sector investment in this exciting project. And I do regular reports to that group, and it was very well received. We have a lot more kind of public exposure that we will be doing with this program as we're starting to see gates show up and progress on the project. I note the public comments. Although I didn't completely understand all of the aspects of the public comments, clearly there were some misunderstandings as to whether this was a full board meeting or committee. Communication is on us, so I will reach out and do our best to do a better job of making those communications clear with our customers, and so I will work on that. I do note that not only did Mr. Stewart allude at it, but I know Commissioner Windmiller and the board expects to see a new version associated with our bus plan. Chuck referred to it in his comments as what is the future of Metro Transit. We are working on that very plan. As a matter of fact, we're going to have a meeting today with myself, Mr. Stewart and Ms. Gershman, talking about those elements, being sure of what is that as we try to confront all of these issues, not only in service, but labor, et cetera. We should always be looking at the tuning of our system so that we are providing the elements that are needed. I think the rider survey idea, just to jump on that, very good. Last rider survey, in fact, we partnered with Citizens for Modern Transit. That was a really successful survey. I might reach out to them and talk more in detail about it. I think it's a good opportunity for us to see where the ridership trends. I will tell you, however, that our ridership trends also are very much a reflection of what's happening economically across the country. We actually are doing a little better than some of our colleagues in different cities. And I think it makes sense that I demonstrate some of that, and I'll put that on a parallel basis to that next rider survey. But we do have a long agenda. I do appreciate everybody's patience moving through these important contractual issues. Really appreciate everybody's endorsement. And Commissioner Windmiller, that concludes my remarks.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate all the additional information. Myra, can we have a future meeting date update?
Yes, the next Board of Commissioners meeting is scheduled for Friday, September 22nd, beginning at 8:30 a.m. The Safety and Security Committee meeting will be held on Thursday, October 5th at 8:30 a.m. And the Operations Committee, as well as the Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee meetings will be held on Friday, October 13th, also at 8:30 a.m.
Great, thank you. The only item for consideration for the executive session would be the approval of the minutes from May 23rd, 2023 Operations Committee executive session. So if there are no corrections to that, those are provided in your board materials, and no discussion is needed, we can proceed to a vote without going into executive session. Are there any changes to the minutes? Great, hearing none. I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the May 23rd, 2023 Operations Committee executive session as presented in the closed record.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Galladay, Commissioner Gladney,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Windmiller,
Aye.
and Commissioner Cox.
Yes.
The motion passed.
If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have Finance Committee right after this, but thank you very much. Appreciate it and hope you all have a good weekend.
Thank you.
For the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Beach, you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you. We will call the meeting of the Audit Financing Administration. We will call the AFA committee meeting to order. Mara, will please call roll.
Commissioner Beach,
Present.
Commissioner Simmons,
Present.
Commissioner Costello, Commissioner Johnson,
Present.
Commissioner Gladney, Commissioner Moore,
Present.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Present.
Commissioner Cox,
Here.
Commissioner Galladay, and Commissioner Brown.
Here.
You can proceed.
Thank you. The minutes of the May 25th AFA committee were provided for your review in your board effect packet in your iPad. If there are no comments or edits, a motion to approve would be in order, please.
Four moves.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving along, item 5, contract award for independent audit services. Tom Curran, I believe, will comment. This is on page 10 of your packet.
Thank you, Chair Beach. This is a request to award a 5-year contract to Clifton Larson Allen for independent audit services. In April 2023, Bi-State issued a solicitation seeking proposals from qualified firms to provide audit services and internal audit peer reviews. The solicitation was advertised on Bi-State's iSupplier website, and the RFP was distributed to over 25 firms. Bi-State's board policies prohibit an incumbent firm from providing audit services for a term in excess of 5 consecutive years, and therefore Reuben Brown was not permitted to submit a bid. In response to the solicitation, proposals were received from Clifton Larson Allen, Crow, Forvis, and Plant Moran. All 4 proposals were determined to be responsive and were forwarded to an evaluation committee consisting of team members from Bi-State's finance department. After reaching a consensus on the highest ranking firm, the committee interviewed Clifton Larson Allen, and the technical scores did not change following that interview. Including the cost scoring, Clifton Larson Allen remained the top ranked firm. So management is requesting that the Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee accept and forward to the Board of Commissioners for final approval this request for the President and CEO to enter into a 5-year contract with Clifton Larson Allen for independent audit services in the not to exceed amount of $922,348. And funding for this activity will be provided through the operating budget. Be happy to entertain any questions.
Hearing no questions, a motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Moving along, item 6, contract modification for our talent management solution. Diana Bentz and our Tom will comment, please.
Thank you, Chair Beach. This request is for the Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee to recommend approval of a contract modification with Saba Halogen Software Incorporated. In 2017, Saba Halogen won a contract through a competitive bid process to provide a talent management system for Bi-State to support recruitment, employee goal setting and tracking, learning, and compensation. That original contract was awarded for 3 base years with a firm fixed price of $342,000. During the course of that contract, Bi-State added additional features, including consultant training and enhancements to the JobBite applicant tracking system. In November of last year, the Board of Commissioners extended the Saba Halogen contract for an additional year for the added cost of $185,544. The Saba Halogen system was the first talent management system that Bi-State has ever implemented. Prior to issuing another solicitation, management has decided that we should explore other options and functionality that might meet our needs more effectively. So Bi-State will use its current contract with Gallagher Consulting to assist with the new procurement. And in the meantime, management is requesting a second extension of the current Saba Halogen contract from November 30th of this year to November 30th of 2024. Management is recommending that the AFA committee accept and forward to the Board of Commissioners for final approval this request to allow the president and CEO to enter into a contract extension with Saba Halogen Software for an additional 1-year period for a cost of $193,880.65. And this project will be funded through the operating budget. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Tom, moving along, item 7 is also Tom, Finance Management Software, Kronos Dimensions Upgrade. That's on page 14 of your packet. Tom?
Thank you. Again, this is a request for the committee to recommend approval of a sole source contract with Ultimate Kronos Group, also known as UKG, for the Kronos Dimensions Upgrade. Bi-State has been using an application called Kronos Workforce for 19 years. This is our system of record for timekeeping for over 1,300 employees and tracking attendance for represented union employees, as well as FMLA leave tracking, vacation, sick, and PTO for all employees. In April 2021, we transitioned from Kronos Workforce on-premises to a cloud implementation of Kronos Workforce. A cyber attack that I'm sure you remember in December of 2022 took the Kronos Workforce Cloud out of service for over a month. UKG made significant security changes to that environment following the cyber attack incident, but the company has now decided to retire Kronos Workforce. UKG has instructed all of its customers to leave Kronos Workforce by December 2025, and the company has recommended that Bi-State migrate to UKG Dimensions, their latest workforce management product, to maintain and enhance our current capabilities. Bi-State performed an analysis to see if this would be the best choice for the agency. The benefits of Bi-State moving to Kronos Dimensions is that all of our current configuration and rules will be maintained, and our employee record data can be migrated to Dimensions. Our current time clocks are also compatible with Dimensions, so we would not have to evaluate, buy, or implement new time clocks as we would if we purchased a new system. User conversion will also be simpler because the new system has many similarities with the existing product, but Dimension also has enhanced reporting tools. An upgrade to Kronos Dimension is recommended as the best path forward, maintaining our current capabilities, allowing further enhancement, and minimizing the disruption to our business. Bi-State has many complex rules in the existing Kronos Workforce application to ensure that the system is calculating our timekeeping correctly, and a Dimensions upgrade would allow all of these configurations, rules, and reports to be migrated to the new system. Capital funds in the amount of $500,000 have already been set aside for this purpose. The cost of the project conversion, which includes some one-time cost, is $425,000. Management is recommending that the Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee accept and forward to the Board of Commissioners for final approval a request for a sole source contract with Ultimate Kronos Group for the Kronos Dimensions upgrade in a not to exceed amount of $500,000. This is a project from Diana Bentz, but I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments about the sole source contract? Seems valid. I'll entertain a motion to approve it at this time. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you,
Moving
sir.
along, Crystal Mesner will handle items 8, 9, 10, 11, but let's start with 8, revisions to board policies. This starts on page 16 and runs to like page 96 in your packet. Crystal, there's a lot there to look at.
Thank you, Chair Beach. Yeah, we have to submit the 3 different copies, the current version, the red line version with the proposed changes, and of course, the clean copy upon approval. Today I would like to present to the committee for review and recommendation to forward to the Board of Commissioners for approval, a request to incorporate revisions to the collective board policies of by state, Chapter 30, Audit, Finance, and Budget. More specifically to sections 30.005, the Audit Committee Charter. The changes noted are primarily to reference best practice audit standards as required by the 2023 Quality Audit Review that was performed by the Institute of Internal Auditors, rather than referencing some outdated standards. I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Any questions? If not, we need a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the ayes have it. Thank you. Crystal, will you move forward with item 9, Internal Audit Department Follow-up Summary, 4th quarter, fiscal year 23. Item 10, Status Report, 4th quarter 23. And item 11, the SSO Status Report, 2nd quarter, calendar year 23.
Yes, Chair Beach, thank you. For number 9, these are all presented for informational purposes. But number 9 starts on page 96 of your briefing packet. I would like to focus on 97, the chart that is for the FY 23 4th quarter audit follow-up status chart there. The thing I want to note about this is we've been holding pretty steady at about 25% being closed of the corrective action plans. And that's actually now at 36, which is 11% up from the last quarter. So I just want to thank management and their staff for being diligent in getting some of these audit findings closed out and adequately mitigated. For agenda item number 10, that's just our status report for internal audits for the last quarter of fiscal year 2023. I just want to note that we have 3 audits that are going to be in our finalization phases. That's the Metro Store audit, Pass Unit audit, and the Arch Riverboat ticket sales audit. There are several new projects, but 3 that I wanted to mention here, which I listed as being planned or has been started at this phase, which is the IT penetration testing, the fuel usage audit, and Leon uniform contract audit. The special project that we've had for our Teammate Plus software that includes data analytics, we have acquired that. We have that implemented, going live, and we're starting to use that for audit processes. So I wanted to note that, and that was a really big effort from the audit team. It's a pretty big change, but we're very excited about that and to have that running full course. Again, agenda item 10 was just for informational purposes. For agenda item number 11, that's our state safety oversight audits that we perform every year. These are on a calendar year basis. So this is for the 2nd quarter of calendar year 2023. All of the proposed internal audit activities for the 2nd quarter were completed. What I do want to note is a significant amount of closure and caps. We had 12 caps closed out throughout the calendar year thus far, which is a really big deal. So I appreciate all of MetroLink and all the other metro and transit facilities for helping assist getting those taken care of. For continuous improvement, we actually changed, we normally do these in the fall, we changed these to the spring. We had a lot of additional meetings. I would say this year was a very good year for our safety and security team members, and also our external consultants that come in, as well as internal audit, all working together as a team. So I just want to thank everyone for their time on that within the facilities. But we did have those scheduled, and we've sent all of the draft audit reports over to our SSO oversights for review, and right now have no questions on those. So that's in a good review period as well. So that concludes my update for this quarter. Commissioner Beach.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments concerning those last 3 items?
Commissioner, this is Talby. Can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
So just very, very helpful. I apologize for all the technical information today, commissioners, but very important to get through this. But Couple of highlights of this plan, completing, for instance, the Metro Store audit. Look, that's a key component. We have been looking at the Metro Store functionality within the business unit from a finance standpoint. And so this means that moving along on a parallel basis helps us make those fundamental decisions. So I want to thank Crystal's group for being sure to complete that audit. Looking forward to that. Also, and audits soon to begin. The IT penetration issue is one that's obviously very big. And we actually had a discussion about that associated with the Kronos problem that we had not too long ago. So very important that our audit team is reflecting the same policy direction that we are taking from a management standpoint. I want to thank Crystal and her team for doing that. In other words, these are not thoughts or ideas that come out of a vacuum. They are ideas and thoughts that come out of the many different disciplines in the work group, and the audit team's done a good job of picking that up and helping us make those decisions. So thank you for those specific items, and I'm looking forward to giving them a really a stronger look.
Thank you. And I spoke with Crystal yesterday. We meet on via Zoom typically the day before this AFA committee to go over things. Andrew, not to put you on the spot, but I see you're here. Anything you want to add?
Nothing at all. I appreciate the continued collaboration between Crystal's team, the SSO, and our team as well. As Crystal mentioned, we take cap closure very seriously, and we work diligently every month to meet and tag up and to make sure that we are all staying on point with getting these addressed from start to finish.
Thank you. Moving along, item 12, we will get a risk management insurance program update from Kathy Britton. This is information only, and that is on page 107 in your packet. Kathy?
Morning, Commissioners. I'm here to update you on our fiscal year 24 insurance renewal that was effective July 1st. We worked closely with our domestic insurance broker, Alliant, and our two London brokers, BMS and Howden, who were successful in securing all of our insurance policies. In your packet is a summary of all the insurance that was placed. We placed over 20 different types of coverage. For all coverages, excluding property, we saw a 5% increase in premium with expiring terms. This was 6% under budget for these lines of coverage. We feel this was a good outcome considering the market was really targeting 8 to 10% increases across the board. Property continues to experience global catastrophic events that are driving the property insurance market. Insurance companies experienced catastrophic losses in 2022, which were even 6 times larger than in 2021. In addition, the insurers saw 40 to 50% increases in their reinsurance costs and reduction in their capacity. Bi-state's property losses also had a major effect on this year's renewal. We had 3 major losses in the last couple of years: the LRV total loss due to a derailment, the airport maintenance building fire, and of course, last year's flood claim. We were successful in securing all of our needed capacity, which is our limits of insurance. However, our premium and our deductibles increased substantially. Property premium increased by 57%, and our deductible was increased to $1 million per occurrence for all perils. Alliant was able to benchmark these deductibles to other comparable transit agencies, and we found that $1 million is not out of line. For example, TriMet out of Portland, a $2 million deductible. Sacramento has $1 million for collision and derailment. San Francisco has $1 million. Valley Metro has $1 million on rolling stock. So overall, the insurance program came in at 23% over expiring, and 5%, which is just around $460,000 over budget. So With that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody would like any further details on our insurance program.
I might add that Kathy and I have had several conversations and communications over the past several weeks concerning this matter. Obviously, the sign of the times. But are there any questions for Kathy? Comments?
I have just a question. First of all, Kathy, thanks so much, and Chair Beach for the information. It's very helpful. Obviously, I don't think that this is not an anomaly and it's going to continue. And so I would just ask that we make sure for budgeting purposes, Talby, that we consider the increases in insurance costs and also not just on the actual premium side and the fact that our deductibles have gone up, but also that I think things like catastrophic issues are going to continue. And even if they're not directly related to Metro, the industry is going to make sure that those costs are spread out, and we're going to see increasing insurance costs over the next 5 to 10 years, and we need to take that into account when we're doing our annual budgets.
Absolutely. Developing the strategy with this change in market is very key. And actually, as Kathy mentioned, moving up our deductible is simply a reality to keep us within budget. Tammy's actually also been involved in these discussions. And the nice thing about Kathy's review is then it provides us with good context to fit it within the budget, and we can make those informed decisions. So we have not only the market, but then also our recent history. The good news on recent history is that we got great insurance coverage from the flood. Bad news is it means our rates go up. So that balance and having a good discussion about it. Also, Chair Simmons and Vice Chair Gladney also went over a insurance update that Kathy Britton provided in Kathy, I think that was in January or February of this year, just to be sure that we're staying with it. Gosh, folks, I know it's a lot of information, but I appreciate your patience in going through it. I think these professionals have done a good job, but informed by those comments like yours, Chair Windmiller, are well said, and we intend to do it.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Kathy. The next two items, item 13, financial statements, and 14, treasurer's report, will be handled by Tammy Fulbright. The financial statements start on page 113 of your packet, and the treasurer's report starts on page 192. Tammy?
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Ruben Brown, our external auditors, are currently in the office working on our fiscal year 2023 annual audit. This is their 5th and final year of the contract for these independent audit services. And this morning, I have preliminary numbers to present to the committee. These numbers are prior to final financials for the pension OPEB, as well as actuarial reports for the casualty and workers' compensation. We'll have audited financials ready for review and approval in the October committee meeting, and upon approval, ready to present at the November board meeting. For transit, draft results show income of $230 million before depreciation. This is primarily due to us bringing in our remaining COVID relief funds, which consisted of $150 million in ARPA funds and $64 million in CARISA funds. For executive services, our draft results show income of $1.1 million, and this is primarily due to a reduction in budgeted expense for consultant services and shortages in some budgeted staffing positions. For the ARCH, preliminary results show income of approximately $3 million. Revenue for the year is $2 million more than budget, and ridership has increased 32% over the prior year. Overall expense is down about $1 million compared to budget, and this is a combination of less expense related to labor and benefits, parts, and other services. Initial results for the riverboats are showing income of $1.2 million before depreciation. Revenue is close to $900,000 more than budget, and overall expenses are down close to $200,000, primarily due to less expense for wages and benefits. Overall, this enterprise is up about $250,000 in income from the prior year. And preliminary results for the airport show income before depreciation of approximately 100,000. And this is the result of improved interest income and leased acreage revenues. For freightways, results are currently showing a loss of about 125,000. As mentioned, we'll have actual numbers at the October committee meeting for review and approval. And for cash and investments at June 30th, the by-state directed funds were 509 million with an average rate of return of 4.7%. And our trustee directed funds were about 55 million with an average rate of return of the same of about 4.7%. For the fuel hedge through June 30th, realized gains were 7.2 million. And this is a result of right sizing the number of contracts to align with our actual needs. For the year, this resulted in fuel cost of $1.01 per gallon compared to a budgeted cost of $1.55 when actual cost of $3.21. We know that we're going to see higher expense related to fuel in FY24. The reason we're seeing such a reduction, as mentioned, is really the right sizing of the number of contracts for the year. And I'm happy to answer any questions on any of these items.
Any questions for Tammy? Comments? Thank you so much.
Sure.
Moving along back to Tom Curran, item 15, the procurement report, which is on page 200 plus. Tom?
Yes, thank you. The procurement report for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2023 has 4 components. The first is the non-competitive procurement trend for the fourth quarter. Non-competitive procurements for the quarter totaled approximately $3.5 million, or 8.4% of the total purchase order volume of $41.9 million. This is a dramatic decrease from the third quarter of fiscal year 2023, when non-competitive spending was over 20% of the total. So we're moving in the right directions. The second component is the procurement card transactions report. There were no confirmed procedural violations during the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2023. During this quarter, there were 3,824 transactions made with procurement cards for a total cost of $1.6 million. The third report is a list of all contracts over $100,000 for the fourth quarter. The largest of these was the exercise of a third option year for our contract with River North Transit for continuation of our VIA microtransit program for $7.1 million. The second largest contract was $5.8 million for Allied Universal for provision of public safety and security. And then the final procurement report component is the contract modifications report for the fourth quarter. And as usual, the modifications involved exercising option years on existing contracts, some service additions to current projects, and time extensions. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions for Tom on his report? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Moving along, item 16, pension plans, 401k retirement savings program, and other post-employment benefits trust investment performance update as of June 30th. Dave Tobin.
Morning,
You're up.
Commissioners. Thank you. I'm here to present, as mentioned, an informational update under agenda item 16 for our defined benefit pension plans, our defined contribution 401k plan, and our other post-employee benefit or OPEB trust. This update is as of June 30th, 2023, or fiscal year end 23. I'm going to go ahead and start with the 401k plan, which had assets of 82.1 million as of June 30th, which is up by 9 million in contributions and investment earnings from fiscal year end 22. And that represents about 3.5 million of that being combined employer and employee contributions. So the balance was investment gains. So we are running above industry standards for elective participation in our 401k plan, as well as elective contributions. So that's really good news. And we are on par for those participants taking loans against their retirement accounts with industry benchmarks. All investment managers are performing at or above the benchmarks that we've set for them, and there are no changes being recommended in the investment lineup. But I will say that we are currently evaluating adding a guaranteed income investment option to the existing portfolio of investment opportunities that are available. And we're going through a vetting process with our investment advisors And we'll be working with the salaried pension and 401k plan committee on any recommendations that may come from them. Next, I'm going to highlight the salaried pension plan, which ended June 30th with assets of 96.2 million, with fiscal year 23 investment gains of 8.5 million. Investment returns are currently meeting our projected needed discount rate, and all managers are performing at or above benchmarks. Next, the IBEW pension plan ended fiscal year 23 with 7.2 million in assets, with total investment gains of 600,000. Investment returns on this plan are currently meeting the projected discount rate, and all managers are performing at benchmarks. We continue to rebalance the investment portfolio to reduce risk in this mature closed plan. There are not many members in this plan, so we have a concerted rebalancing effort to continue to reduce that risk over time and conserve principal. And finally, the ATU pension plan ended fiscal year 23 with assets of 165.6 million, with total investment gains of 15.2 million. Investment returns in this portfolio are currently meeting the projected discount rate, which is 6.5%. And just as a point of reference, 2023 returned 10%. All managers in this portfolio are performing at benchmarks. There continues to be negative cash flow out of this plan due to the number of participants in pay status. So we have more in pay status than paying in. So that continues to be a challenge for the funding status of this plan. And then finally, the OPEB trust, which we implemented in 2010 with a 30-year amortization schedule, had fiscal year and 23 assets of 61.7 million, with total investment gains of 4.2 million and a rate of return of 8.9% for the fiscal year on a projected discount rate of 6%. This portfolio carries a slightly lower risk profile, and all investment managers are currently performing at benchmarks. All performance plan updates were included as exhibits in your board packet. And with that, I will entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Moving along, Toby, you're up.
I have no unscheduled business, but I'll just roll into a very brief comment. That is, fairly substantial increases on the insurance side. One thing that is possible with, for instance, the flood effects is that we are rebuilding the system and rebuilding it so that it could be stronger. But one of the really important aspects of the financial management of that, and we are only partway through it at this point, is that with the federal support and the successful insurance, we could be ahead on that project financially, okay? And that will allow us to defer some of those costs that we are now going to see from an operating standpoint. So the key pieces of support being two there. So A, that we had a good, strong insurance claim that was paid promptly by professionals, and then B, that then we receive the federal support so that the financial impact is not so tremendous. Also, Ms. Britton's negotiation to increase some of our, for instance, our deductibles means that if then we have better financial strength to cover those deductibles on an unknown event, allows us to defer some of those, or at least handle some of those increases in operating expense. So I realize it was a kind of complicated issue, but very important that when we wade through even the unknowns, we have opportunities to do so. So just got a quick text question about that, so I appreciate you have some patience with that explanation. That concludes my remarks. Thank you, Chairman Beach.
Thank you. Mara Bennett, upcoming meeting dates, please.
As noted previously, the next Board of Commissioners meeting will be held on Friday, September 22nd, beginning at 8:30. The next Safety and Security Committee meeting will be held on Thursday, October 5th at 8:30. And the next Operations Committee and Audit Finance Administration Committee meetings will be held on Friday, October 13th, also starting at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you. At this time, I need a motion that this committee go into executive session for the purpose of discussing legal, confidential, or privileged matters as permitted under Bi-State Development Board Policy, Chapter 10, Section 10.080 D1, legal, D2 real estate, and D10 auditors. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion, a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
The motion passed.